Hey guys, Coach Eric here. This is the first video of what will probably be more videos talking about our offense. So the number 5 spot is a little bit different, and I've been working with those players independently. But this video is going to be about all the other spots on the floor. So for everyone else, the best way to think of the offense is that whoever has the ball is in charge, and everyone else needs to react to them. So the number one rule in this offense, which I keep saying, is every time you pass the ball, you have to cut to the basket. Another main rule is we have to fill those open spots. So every time someone cuts to the basket, we fill their open spots, and that player who cut to the basket, if they didn't get the ball, then they kick out and fill one of the open spots. And remember, it's the person who has the ball is in charge. And so real quick, we're going to look at the spots around the three-point line. I'm sure everyone is more than familiar with spots 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then we also can go in the corners, which we talked about, but here I just put them on as X's. So if you can imagine number 1 having the ball, passing to number 3, and then cutting in, if they don't get the ball back, they can cut to any of these outside spots. Now let's take a look at how the players move as we do certain things. So as you see, number 1 has the ball. In this case, they're going to pass to 3 and cut to the basket. One's going to pass to 3 and cut to the basket. And as you saw, that opened up a spot. Number 2 filled that spot, and number 4 came up to fill the other spot. So if we go look at it again, number 1's going to pass, and then when you pass, you have to cut to the basket. That's rule number 1. And our second rule is we're filling these open spots. And if number 1 doesn't get the ball, he then cuts out to another open spot. So now let's look at a couple different options. If number 1 passes to 3 and cuts in, certainly number 3 can pass him the ball back and we can go shoot a layup. But let's say number 1's covered, because it usually is covered. Number 3 could pass to number 2, who's coming across. And if he passes to number 2, which he just did, what does he have to do? He has to cut to the basket. So then you're going to see 3 cut to the basket. So we'll go watch that again. Pass and cut, pass and cut. Notice how when we're done here, what we still have good positioning, right? We still have people at the 2 top spots. Number 1 is going to fill the spot on the wing. And number 3, if he doesn't get the ball, he is then going to fill any of the spots open that he wants. So he can pop into one of these corners or come right back to the same spot that he left. Now we're going to go through yet another option. Number 1 passes and he cuts through, because that's the rule. And he doesn't get the ball, so he pops out to the open spot. And then number 5 is going to cut, and now he's going to get a pass. So 1 passes and cuts, 5 decides he wants to come up, he cuts, and then number 3 cuts in. Now what makes it a little difficult as opposed to other offenses that I've seen 4th grade teams running is every time you have the ball, you can do whatever you want with it, right? You can dribble it, you can pass it, you can shoot it, you can do whatever you want with it. These are just options, right? The rule is every time you pass, you have to cut to the basket, okay? Another rule is if there's open spots, you have to fill those open spots. But then once number 3 gets the ball here, he can do what he wants. He should look for number 1 cutting, and now if number 3 wants to drive to the basket, he can drive to the basket. If he wants to pass to 2, he can pass to 2. When 5 comes up, if he wants to pass to 5, he can pass to 5. He can do whatever he wants. Everyone else is waiting for him to do something, and then they're going to react to it. So if he decides to pass to 5, he's going to cut to the basket. Let's look at some examples with 1 going to 2 now. So here, 1 is going to pass the ball to 2, and then what's he going to do? He's going to cut to the basket. Number 3 is going to come up to fill that open spot, and 1 is going to pop out wide to fill his spot. Again, 1 has the ball, he's in charge, he can do whatever he wants. In this case, the same thing. He's going to pass to 2, he's going to cut to the basket, 3 is going to fill his open spot. Now 2 has the ball, he can do whatever he wants. Okay? And 4 and 3, they're waiting on 2 to make a decision. So 4, if the guy with the ball right now decides to pass to the 2, decides to pass to the 4, then he's just going to cut to the basket. So let's look at one possible option that we could do. 1 passes to the 2 and cuts to the basket, but he's not open. So now 2 has the ball, and he can do whatever he wants. In this case, the 5 is going to flash up to the foul line. So the 2 decides to pass to him, and because he passed, he has to cut to the basket. And because there's an open spot up top, 4 has to fill it. And then 2 comes out. So again, the rules are, number 1, every time you pass the ball, you have to cut the basket. And number 2, if there's an open spot, you have to fill that open spot. Now we're going to look at the type of thing that happens quite a bit, something to this effect. So let's run through and just see the type of thing that happens. And then we end up with spacing like this. So what happens here is 1 pass to 3. He didn't cut to the basket. He took 2 steps, realized he wasn't open. His guy was still on him, so he just stopped. And then 2 went over to fill his spot. Simultaneously, 5 and 4 both went to the foul line to try to get open. And so it's in general, it's not that it's terrible ideas, but within the structure of the offense, we oftentimes have people all bunched up. If 1 had cut all the way to the basket, he would at least be away from people right now, and then he'd be filling to the opposite side. And if 4 had gone to fill the other top spot, we would be okay. But instead, and this happens all over the floor with everybody, right? I'm not calling out any one person. Everybody does it. As opposed to cutting to the basket, we pass and then we take 2 steps, we realize we're not open, and we just stop. And then the other people, as opposed to filling the open spots on our offense, will just also cut to the basket. And then what we end up with is a bunch of people standing right next to each other like this, as opposed to what we want, which is something more like this where we have spacing. So we're going to continue to work on this in practice. Again, it's hard. Most of the teams that we play against aren't running offenses like this. And so we just need more practice. You guys are doing a great job, and we're going to keep working on it.